All right, welcome back to another Ladder Legends replay analysis. This time it is Ladder Legends Nydhog, and he's facing the random player who rolled Terran, PBOY. Nydhog says, "It's starting to get overwhelming looking at replays like this. I see so many things I could work on or fix. There are a lot of windows in this game where if I just did one little different thing, I would have won, but I really want to take what I am doing and raise the overall bar a bit. What would y'all say is the most important thing to focus on here?" All right. Having played PBOY and kind of knowing how he plays, I think he plays a mech style, like a long sort of mech style. It's important to note that this is one of those things where once you get behind like you need to know what the end game is and how to play the end game because he's going to play very defensively, and so you need to play for longer term goals. And you also need to know that he will do aggressive attacks and try to like get you behind. And so if you do get behind, you can still play out the game if you know what the end game goals are. But if you end up losing, even if you play exceptionally well, it will require him to screw up at that point. So we're looking to capitalize on mistakes at that point rather than not. So this doesn't really go to the deeper question, which is, okay, what should I focus on a replay like this? And so we will address that. So I'm going to start by looking at what actually happens in replay, pointing out like one, kind of the first few mistakes that we make that start to get us behind, assuming we do get behind. And then two, talk about like the long-term game plans. And then we'll circle back around and try to talk about what I think you should be focused on if you want to improve long-term. All right, so let's see what our strategies are here. You're going for a 16 pool. Very nice. One thing to note, I guess it's not that important, this map, but even so, I think that like if the map's close enough that you can block off someone behind the mineral line versus Terran, which it's actually random right now, so hold that thought, but or we'll come back to that in a second. But first, Terran, I would always like to block off the back of the mineral line. If it is Protoss, or if you can't actually block something off, then I find that it's good to block off little pinches in the mineral patches where like a Reaper could try to like run through. Or if it's Protoss in particular, blocking off like where a Adept could try to wedge himself through means that when a Shade's coming in, you only have to worry about one little wedge, and you don't have to worry about two that he could potentially get into. So if you knew if it was Protoss or Terran, I would probably put the pool here. Since it's Zerg, however, you'd probably want to put the pool here to make sure that you have like a tight wall and a place that the queen can nestle. It won't come into play every single game. In many games, it won't matter at all. But like having that like tight wall for the queen to nestle herself into whenever Lings and potentially Banes are coming through, and having the drones be able to like, if a Banes are coming around this way, the drones can evacuate out this way through the queen, and the Banes can't follow. That can sometimes be the difference between winning or losing games. So in a random situation, I would definitely put the pool here. However, 2/3 chance they would be good here. One thing to note here is that I've gone back and forth on what I actually like doing here. One of the things that sort of advocated to me. So first of all, I would say 17 hatchery so that we have 16 out of 16. That'd be nice. But then one of the things that sort of has advocated to me that I've started to definitely go with is, let's go with a 17 Overlord here and get the gas after the 17 Overlord. Reason being, we're not really planning on being massively aggressive, probably with any of our builds, and so therefore the gas timing is not too important. We want to make sure that we have enough money to get our queen out immediately, and also it's just nice to get that out of the way. Anything you can do to simplify the game, and this is a point we'll come back to at the end. Anything you can do to like simplify and keep the games within like the same standard tolerance. So like I get this overlord at this time. It maybe is I could get an extra 7 minerals if I get it, slightly later, or this at the other. Fine, but like less actions means less chance to screw up, means more chance to automate what you're doing. and more chance to put your brain power towards things that matter versus these little details. So I would go 17 Overlord here, wait on the extractor. You can even have the drone rally to the extractor if you like and just wait there so that we have enough money as soon as the pool pops or pretty close from the pool pops to start the queen. Then we start the extractor. Then we just make drones to fill the extractor, and the Overlord pops. And we just it's all nice and easy. We don't really need to make these Zerglings either, especially given that we don't know. I guess we do now know, but we made the links before we knew what race it was. It's not necessary to be safe to make, like, just the fact that we made this spawning pool early typically makes us safe. Granted, if they are doing something like it's a Zerg and they're doing an early pool, then we're going to have to potentially give up this base and make spine crawlers up here. So it's possible that not making these lings would make some early game defense scenarios more challenging. However, just note that it's not necessary. And so unless you're doing this because you really like to make these, you don't feel the need to. We definitely want an Overlord on the way already. I would say this Overlord is going to be quite late. And you notice we took this super early gas. We have 17, but we're not mining at all. We could mine 1. And then we're not going to be able to mine the 2. Like, I think we'll probably have 2 larvae floating here before this finishes. Yeah, just barely 2. So overall, a little inefficient. And I promise that's all I'm going to do with the nitpicking of the early game. Let's look more into big details as to what's going on here. Okay, so we see that he has a bunker in the front and he has no attachment to the barracks. He's doing some sort of tech play. We know this, right? There's no pressure coming out from him. There's no lots of Marines coming out from him. There's no stim or anything coming in. We know it's going to be a tech play already. There's a factory. Is there going to be a siege tank into double? Oh, is another factory. Okay. This is actually quite good. So, like, he's given us all the information we really need. We see that it is a tech lab. He's building something out of there, but he's also getting either Blue Flame or he's getting Mag Fuel Accelerator. So we basically know that it's mech at this point. And we know that it is going to be some sort of aggressive mech variant. It's not going to be sit back and just expand. He's going to do something to you. And then he might sit back and expand, but at least he's going to do one thing to you. And so when we see this, we know that basically Roach Warren, which we already have on the way, but the next thing that's also going to be, we want to make sure we have probably 4 queens to start. And we can look at that. But then after we get like 3 to 4 queens, maybe even 3 queens would be the first thing. But we actually do want to start prioritize getting lair for roach speed, because we're going to probably if it's Blue Flame, we're going to make a lot of roaches. Once we have a lot of roaches, what do we want? We want roach speed. With what he's actually doing, which is Mag Fuel Accelerator, he's going to be trying to be aggressive with Battle Mech. And what's going to shut it down is one creep. Creep won't shut it down, but creep will help delay. We can take fights with Roach Ling while we're on creep, but we cannot step off creep. What eventually will shut this down is when Roach speed finishes. Therefore, lair is going to be a huge priority as soon as we see this setup. This tells us right now lair is a huge priority. Now, one thing I'll note is that, like, we are cutting units quite early in order to like defend his aggression. One thing, even just noting by the timing of the factory and the timing of his upgrade starting, like, it's going to be a little while, and we should try to get out, a decent amount of saturation on the 3rd, at least like 5 or 6 more drones on the 3rd before we go into heavy unit production. So once the Roach Warren finishes, so first of all, like I said, we need to be prioritizing lair before we just get units out, which the lair started right here. That's fine. But like we have all these roaches out before any of these roaches start. We need lair started because frankly, before any of these roaches start, we really want roach speed. So given what we've seen this game, let's go back and watch, and we can kind of talk about like what the actual right in an ideal perfect world, we would go lair and then roach warren slightly after that, and then we would go for roach speed before any roaches start. However, if we have to start a roach warren and then a lair just because of the way things fall, that's fine too. We can make a few roaches, but we want to make sure when lair finishes, we have 100 gas for roach speed to start. So let's kind of take a look here. So at this point, if we're looking at our overlord, we could already know that like it's a possibility we're going to want to go into roach warren in the lair, right? Because he starts this factory right here. Frankly, as I said before, the heavy tech play means that lair is going to be a super big likelihood of something we want to make, and it's important to note that like these likelihoods, just because we like let's say back here we already know that like it's likely we're going to want a pretty fast lair. That doesn't mean we need a lair in the next 30 seconds. That just means like, okay, like let's make sure that we're getting a lair before we get a fourth base. Let's make sure we're getting a lair before, potentially before the fourth queen, we might be wanting to get a lair. These sorts of things. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to like rush to the lair immediately. Okay. But it's good to start noting that even now we could be thinking we probably want a fast lair, and there's a good chance we want a roach warren with it, or we're going to want a spire. Like those are the two tech choices that we're sort of like leaning between right now, is either a roach warren or a spire. And that is because we're not sure if he's going for battle cruisers or he's going for what he's actually going for, which is some sort of mech play, some sort of battle mech play. Okay. So already we could be thinking that. And how should we change in order to like, I guess it is worth looking at this early build now and trying to like, so one thing that I'm going to say is this right here, we should definitely be like redirecting this here, because you'll notice that like we keep on oversaturating here, and then we either never fix it or we do eventually fix it. Yeah, we eventually fix it, but it just takes extra action. So really try to put some conscious effort into redirecting early. One thing to note, I think we've did this inject here. If we're planning on taking this early third, which is a good idea, I think we should take the early third. It's a useful thing. We don't want to be injecting here. You're going to notice we're going to be floating all this larva anyway. So let's just get our creep rolling. So let's do a creep tumor first, then we can start injecting. The second thing is we have two queens going, and this is where it becomes I'm gonna have to tell you that I go back and forth on this myself, but typically we want to prioritize spending larva always. And so the fact that we're starting this third, the fact that we got this fast third means that our third queen is just necessarily going to be late. It's kind of okay in this case because, as I said, we have like a view of his factory. We see it's got a tech lab. We see he's not going to be making Hellions. The biggest reason why we'd be like wanting to have more queens early on is if he's making Hellions, and we're going to need Hellions in addition to our Lings to help shut them down and keep them away from our drones. Because he's given us the information, like it's completely fine, and he's given us this information before we start this queen. We see that this factory is just starting. We see that there is no reactor that is on any of these buildings. And so we should be giving a greater emphasis to making drones rather than getting the queens out since we got this third earlier. The point of getting this third earlier is that we get these drones out and we can get this mineral line saturated, and then we can get this mineral line saturated. So we need to emphasize actually spending the larva on drones. Again, this is where I'll say that there's a bit of like a disconnect with the early third. If we're going to be getting an early third, then we probably want to avoid getting these two gases so early. We'd rather focus on getting a mineral saturation. The point of the early third is having access to this mineral line faster. So we'd much prefer to have these two drones still mining here and these 6 drones, or I guess 5 drones, mining over here. That was kind of the point of this early third. And then if we should probably fully be saturated, have this gas be fully saturated at this point. So we're taking 2 additional gases, but we're not making maximum use of the gas that's over here. So always try to think about like before I'm like adding on additional things, am I fully maximizing the things that I have? We should be starting this layer immediately at this point, just because we've been mining gas. Our gas has been so late that it's definitely like this isn't even an early layer at this point. So we would love to have a layer at this point. Yeah, we've played overly safe, overly safe for sure. But okay, let's see. We're definitely cool. We jump on him. Once we jump on him, we cannot go off creep anymore. He has cyclones, right? He showed us he has cyclones. Even though he had a very small amount of cyclones, he's going to be building more and more and more, and we do not have roach speed. So we're not ready to go off creep until we have roach speed, and we're ready to run him down all the way back to his base. Without roach speed, this is not possible. The roaches are just too slow. So as of right now, we are limited to this creep area. As soon as he goes off the creep area, as soon as he gets off our lawn, we can just come back and chill. And we need to be working towards roach speed, working towards the 4th base, etc. Okay. I'm going to guess that felt pretty good. But let's just take stock of the situation. Before this happens, he is down 100 and 200 resources, roughly 200 or 180 resources. Is that right? 170 resources. That seems right. We are now down 580, 800, 900 almost resources. So that was a swing of like over 1,000 resources. So this is why we can't fight off. We can't fight without our roach speed. Like when we take that fight, we have to be ready to continue streaming units in until he is like dead. That's the point, right? We don't go across map like that off creep until we're ready to bam kill him. All right. So at this point, we're quite behind, I would say. And it's pretty much all off the back of this. All the other mistakes. But yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely we're just hurting. We're hurting now. It's going to be the slow, painful death. Did he give it back to us? A little bit. He's now reset it. It's now like that, like losing that army means that we are in the game. But it was massively out of our favor, and now it is playable, but not even good. I wouldn't even call us ahead. It's just playable. We're slightly behind now. And as soon as he gets his army count back up, he will no longer be slightly behind. So we have to use this time to get our drone count up, most likely. You could try to use it to kill him, but killing a Terran is never easy, so I wouldn't recommend that course. Outright. And the problem is, yeah, we even tried to go with the killing route, and now it is... We're doing okay. Maybe the situation is exactly the same. We're slightly behind, but all he has to do is stabilize. We still have to kill him. And keep in mind, we don't have to almost, we have to do serious damage. This isn't enough. It's not enough damage. He almost threw it back to us, but I'd say he's now back. He's back in the driver's seat completely after we failed to do enough here, basically. And like doing enough here we'd have to do crippling damage. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it looks like we're about to kind of just get overwhelmed. I guess infestors are probably necessary. Infestors are very good against us, but not 100% necessary. But yes, I think you should get infestors. However, that is not the story of this game. So let's talk about what I said in the end, which is, okay, we got to think about what is the end game in this case, right? And so what he's done here, he's going mass Hellion or Hellbat, which doesn't make sense with Hellions, but I think it's just because of the situations he's in. Cyclone, Banshee. This is essentially the equivalent of if you were to go Roach Ravager, right? If you were just to make Roaches and Ravagers the entire game, and you were just trying to kill him on Roach Ravager. You just kept making Roach Ravager, right? This is what we call a bad army composition that like allows you to get a lot of units out quickly. But there's a way to win with it. And the way to win with it is snowballing. So he needs to just like if you're making Roach Ravager, and just like earlier before too, when you're making, or even Mutabaneling, you're trying to snowball with this composition, this Mutabaneling Roach. You're trying to snowball the interaction such that you win, which you successfully kind of snowball there. So now we've snowballed, but his economic situation is better. And so we need to continue snowballing our army to win, right? Now this is fine, but you need to understand this, and you need to understand that every fight you take, it can't be a good enough fight, it has to be a snowball fight, right? And so here, when we're like, we have 8 lings in production, we have this much money in the bank, we have 23 larvae, this is a problem because we're trying to snowball. We need all of this larva into stuff that's going to attack so that we don't just take good fights, we take amazing fights. This is kind of fine. We reset all his army, but we need to spend all of our money, put it into units, you know, pool here, get a huge thing, and then continue to snowball, Like, we're winning the snowball here, but we have to, like, we have to actually spend all the money. We have to use all the money. We should, like, notice that here, like, probably we're, like, mining a little bit too much gas. So, like, you could pull 1 off of here and, like, make sure we're prioritizing 16 out of 16. Minerals help us snowball a lot. So we can pull 1 off of gas here. This seems to be good. This base here is a big problem because we are mining 10 drones on 1 mineral patch. So this needs to all be transferred here. So we can continue to try to snowball. And in fact, this should have started to be moved quite a bit sooner. So like already here, 11 out of 8, red number. This needs to be moved here. And so all this money we need to get into a huge army. And we need to find a weak point. Attacking here is fine, but again, all this larva, we need to find a way to spend all of this larva. And that would allow the snowball to continue. So both of you have opted for very bad army compositions, and you're just looking to snowball. The problem is, if we go all the way back to this position here, we started to try to snowball before we actually had the technology to snowball. And this put us in a bad spot. Like here, before this attack, we're winning the snowball because we have a better economy. So as we continue to make more units to snowball, then all of a sudden, like it's the onus is on him to attack us. But like as long as we continue to make units, we're not going to let the snowball is going to go in our favor, not his favor. Eventually, we're going to snowball across the map. However, we go across the map before we're ready, which means we completely reset our army count. Our economy hasn't significantly increased in this time. If we had droned behind that, maybe we're in a slightly better. If we had droned during this attack, then we might be in the same situation that he was in later in the game, which is he has no army. His army got completely reset, but he has a stronger economy. So, we had to snowball him immediately. In this case, if we had a larger economy, he would have to snowball us immediately with his army. Like there would be a time pressure on him. But now there is no time pressure on him because his economy is actually not worse than ours. Our economy isn't allowing it. We had a bigger army. We threw it away. We have comparable, if not worse, economies than him. And so we've completely thrown the game to him. He already has the snowball. He has the economy, so his snowball is going to get bigger. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. In many ways, it's kind of a miracle. We make a, I was going to say we make a mature choice letting the base go, but we don't. We actually fight for the base, let the snowball get worse, then lose the base anyway. How he doesn't just kind of move in and kill us here, it's kind of because Zerg's OP, I'm not going to lie to you. And also because his rallies are OP, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, if he just leans on us, like, the game's over here. So it's pretty lucky. We're a cat with the 9th life here that we get to like stay in this game at all. And that's how you got to look at this game. This game isn't frustrating at this point. It's like, oh my gosh, we still have a chance to win this game. That's amazing. But now we're doing the problem. We sort of like stopped his snowball here. Now we need to pull back because we're not ready to go all the way. We need to stay on creep. We need to continue trying to build the forces. We did a good job resetting his army count. Even though he's technically got a higher economy than us, he still has to take a base. So we need to get a good number of forces together, and we need to take another good fight when he overextends on creep. After the next good fight, and we need to make sure we can probably go and attack him. We should probably drop, another base. We should drop a macro hatchery. We should make sure that we're injected everywhere. And even the 2 macro hatcheries is great. I love it. But because of the bad situation we're in, it's not our time to like snowball across the map. We don't have the production to keep the army up and just keep the snowball going. So once again, we started to get to a playable situation, and then we kind of threw it by overextending, which is the exact same way he threw it to us. So let me try to, so really, this game is not that chaotic to me. This game very much comes down to one thing, which is both sides are trying to focus on like creating numerous amounts of cheap units, so bad army quality, but make a lot of it, and then they're trying to throw it at the opponent and hope that it snowballs. And what has happened is that both parties have overextended when it's not their time. Their snowball isn't big enough, and they have thrown the game back and forth to each other. Okay, so how do we play? How do we like then conceptualize this as like a larger moving forward strategy? Like how do we like actually get like generalize this going back? So one is you need to identify what army composition you're going for, what strategy you're going for. And if you're going for something like a snowball, you need to identify the technology that is necessary to make that snowball work. In the case of Roach Ravager Ling, roach speed is going to be a huge one, and then a large amount of numbers, right? Relatively larger army size than they have, much bigger. So that's also going to mean you're going to need hatcheries, and you need those hatcheries to be injected. And you're probably going to want a macro hatchery too, right? So, 4 hatcheries, macro hatchery, that's like, and then like you're trying to get a bunch of units. You're trying to surround his units. You're trying to have roach speed. Once you have the roach speed, then you're trying to like get this around, and then once you get a favorable trade, chase them all the way back to the other side of the map. Relying on the fact that we have, good production in order to make this happen. However, if you don't want to play as all in as that, which, it depends. I think there's value to that, because then it's very clear. You get very clear-cut places things go wrong. Like this game, we could see where we had the advantage. We threw it to him, and then like we could see where he threw the advantage to us, and then we can see where we threw it back to him. And so it makes these very clear-cut positions whenever you're playing these snowball strategies, and there's some value to that. However, if you just were like, man, I need to like understand how to win, like why is what he's doing bad, then you should start to think about going to the next level always. And back even here, yes, instead of thinking, okay, I'm waiting for like roach speed in order to like snowball on his side of the map, you should think, I'm waiting for roach speed in order to take advantage and stop him from bullying me, and then I'll easily be able to get to things like the next tier of army. I'm going to be able to easily get to infestation pit, easily get to, upgrades for my units, double upgrades. I'm going to easily be able to get to hive and get things like adrenal. These sorts of things, I'm going to easily be able to get to a higher drone count. So then I have a huge economy, and I have a huge army that he can't beat that's also high quality, right? Even higher quality than the army he's providing. And then the game, you can let him, you'll be dominating the game. So that's like the correct way to play this position, is to think about, how do I get to the next stage? How does my army quality increase while I still maintain a bigger snowball than him, if you will? And so what is the most important thing to focus on here? In my opinion, one, you need to go in and you need to decide, am I trying to snowball, or am I trying to scale? Those are the two ways to play the matchup, right? Any matchup, really. Am I trying to snowball the interaction, or am I trying to scale? In this game, whether you knew it or not, you were trying to snowball. And I'd be interested to know if you were consciously trying to snowball, or it's just you weren't sure and you were just doing things. But either way, identify if you're trying to snowball or you're trying to scale. Then, with intention, do that in that game, and then start to see places where you either throw your snowball, like you start attacking with your snowball before your snowball has enough units or the right technology, which would come in the forms of upgrades like roach speed, upgrades like, +1 bane speed, these sorts of things. Mutas with like upgrades as well, like +1 on the mutas. So start to look at places where you don't have where you decrease the quality of your snowball by attacking too early, before all the pieces of your snowball have come together, before the production is there for your snowball. That's number one, if that's the route you're going. Or then if you're trying to decide okay, I want to play the scaling game and I want my army to always scale, then it's sort of the same way. You kind of need to look at okay, is the opponent trying to snowball me? Okay, when do I allow his snowball to become so great that I need to be scaling into that later stage of the game, making as many drones and stuff as possible. But I also need to make sure that I always have enough units that his snowball can never overrun me. And as long as his snowball can never overrun me, even if we're just trading kind of the same, even if it's slightly in his favor, but not so in his favor, then, I know that my infestors are going to be coming in. I know that my hive tech's going to come in. My lings are going to get adrenal. I'm going to start being really good. My creep's going to spread all over the map. I'm going to have 90 drones to his 70 drones. These sorts of things. So the biggest thing to stop you from being completely unsure of this is, one, identify what kind of game are you trying to play, and what kind of game is your opponent trying to play. And I think the two big archetypes to think about in this matchup, and probably every matchup if I thought about it enough, is, are you trying to snowball? Are you trying to scale? Is your opponent trying to snowball? Is your opponent trying to scale? And then think to yourself, okay, now that I know my game plan, where did I start taking actions that specifically took away from my game plan? All Let me know if that makes sense. Please, any follow-up questions. This is you're getting to a higher level, so this is starting to be higher level comps that we're talking about. This isn't just, you know. And by the way, I always think you should look at like spending your larva and like bank. We had a lot of bank problems this issue. So like very fundamental things that we need to think about is, hey, once I know where my game plan is it snowballing or is it um, doing whatever? Your larva should always be spent ASAP, getting you to the point of enough drones to make your snowball happen, or enough drones to make your defense happen, to make even more drones happen to scale more. But the larva always needs to be getting spent, and the supply blocks need to never happen. So that was a big issue I saw in this game. It was in the background, but how to actually spend that larva effectively will be informed by these larger strategic questions that you have now. So reach out again if you have any questions. Difficult game, totally understand. You know, think about this more. And like I say, you're getting to a higher level. It's going to be harder. Keep at it. Keep asking questions. Keep posting replays. Get some sessions. All these things. Like I'm going to see you kicking this guy's ass here pretty soon. I'm sure of it. All right. If you guys enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to Ladder Legends, and you can post your own replays for analysis in the Discord. Thanks. Have a great day.